Praise be to Jesus. Okay, so let's continue. So June 3rd, 2015. One of the Pope's closest advisors, Argentinian Archbishop Victor Fernandez, gives an interview explaining how Pope Francis is changing the church, saying, quote, "The Pope goes slow because he wants to be sure that the changes have a deep impact. The slow pace is necessary to ensure the effectiveness of the changes. He knows there are those hoping that the next Pope will turn everything back around. If you go slowly, it's more difficult to turn things back. You have to realize that he is aiming at reform that is irreversible. No, there's no turning back. If and when Francis is no longer Pope, his legacy will remain strong." No, boy, we sure hope not. I think he's the last Pope anyway, before the second coming. For example, the Pope is convinced that the things he's already written or said cannot be condemned as an error. Therefore, in the future, anyone can repeat those things without fear of being sanctioned. Okay, that's some Italian newspaper I can't pronounce. All right, June the 6th. The pastoral staff of Pope Francis breaks during a trip to Sarajevo. It is repaired with adhesive tape. Oh, the pastoral staff. I mean the physical staff. I mean like a wooden staff. Oh, okay. All right, well, that's really interesting. June the 8th. Pope Francis says to journalists, quote, "Pray for me. And if some of you can't pray because you are not believers, send me good vibrations," unquote. Send me good vibrations. All right, that's from CNN. June the 12th. Pope Francis to hold his first public meeting with gay activist Simon Cazal, executive director of LGBT rights group Somo Gay, on July 11, 2015. That's from People magazine. June the 18th, call for, quote, ecological conversion. Pope Francis' plea for humanity in his new encyclical, Laudato Si. All right, June 23rd. Pope Francis says weapons manufacturers shouldn't call themselves Christians. June the 23rd. Pope Francis tweets, quote, "God's love is free. He asks for nothing in return. All he wants is for his love to be accepted." Okay, I mean, God doesn't want us to love him? Isn't that like the first commandment? Oh, boy. All right, June 29th. Bolivian cultural minister Marco Machacapote, something like that, says Pope Francis, quote, specifically requested, unquote, to chew cocoa leaves during his visit to Bolivia. Cocoa leaves, the raw ingredient for cocaine, was declared an illegal substance under the 1961 UN Convention on Narcotics and Drugs. Pope Francis clarified in a July 13th airplane press conference that he did not try the cocoa leaves. When asked where his energy comes from, he said, "What drugs are you on?" That was the real question. Mate tea helped me, but I didn't try the cocoa leaves. Let me make that clear. Okay. July the 7th. Pope hints at scandalous changes for the church. Scandalous is in quotes. Referred to the Synod of the Family to be held in October, Pope Francis said to a large crowd, quote, "I ask you to pray fervently for this intention, so that Christ can take even what might seem to us impure, scandalous, or threatening, and turn it into a miracle. Families today need miracles, unquote. July the 9th, unbridled capitalism is the, quote, dung of the devil, unquote, says Pope Francis. July the 9th, Pope Francis, speaking about Jesus multiplying the fish and loaves during a homily for the votive Mass of the Most Holy Eucharist in Bolivia, said, quote, he takes a little bread and some fish, he blesses them, and then gives them to his disciples to share with the crowd. This is how the miracle takes place. It is not magic or sorcery. With these three gestures, Jesus is able to turn a mentality which discards others into a mindset of communion and community. And we can imagine this now. We can imagine how they keep passing the loaves and fishes from hand to hand until the food reached those who are farthest away. Jesus managed to generate a current among his followers. They all went on sharing what was their own, turning it into a gift for the others. And that is how they all got to eat their fill. Incredibly, food was left over. They collected it in 7 baskets. What is this? Jesus managed to generate a current. They all went on sharing what was their own. I don't know what he's talking about. He's nuts. I mean, I hate to say. I know God doesn't like people making bad comments about anyone. It's like if you don't have something good to say or positive to say, don't, keep your mouth shut. It's hard not to be human here, I'm really tired of this Pope. July the 12th, Pope Francis had accepted a communist crucifix featuring a hammer and a sickle from Bolivian President Evo Morales on his arrival in Bolivia on July 9th. When asked about the controversial gift, Pope Francis said, quote, I understand this work. For me, it wasn't an offense. I carry it with me, unquote. Wonderful. Well, he is a communist. Okay. Just checking the time here. July the 12th. The New York Times recapped the Pope's South American trip, writing, he censured capitalism, championed the rights of the poor, warned of irreversible damage to the planet, and urged youth to, quote, make a mess, unquote. In passionate speeches, the Argentine pontiff urged the destitute to change the world economic order and branded the unfettered pursuit of money as the, quote, dung of the devil, unquote. He also sought forgiveness for the sins committed by the Catholic Church against Native Americans during the colonial era. Francis called for the poor to have the, quote, sacred rights, unquote, of labor, lodging, and land. Food and shelter were essential to human dignity, he said. Francis said that protecting the environment was no longer a choice but a duty if the world wanted to save the planet from ruin. Well, this is the Pope talking. The way to save the planet from ruin is, totally a spiritual thing. It has to do with evangelizing, getting people to see that the meaning of their life is to choose where they want to spend eternity, and have people get away from the flesh and all these physical kinds of things that invade our senses constantly, and focus on the supernatural, focus on God. That's the way to save the planet from ruin. Now, a lot of people, regular people wouldn't agree with that, but this is the Pope talking, and he's supposed to be the representative of the Catholic Church. He's supposed to propagate and defend, Jesus Christ and his church, and, the whole Bible, from the first word in the Bible to the last, and he's talking about this is the way to save the planet from ruin. All right, go figure. July 13th, at least 14 people were bitten by snakes and had to be attended by medics during a mass conducted by Pope Francis in the Paraguayan city of Asuncion. Okay. Same day, July 13th. Pope closes South American trip, urging youth to, quote, make a mess, unquote. Okay, I think we're going to stop there. Okay, there's my 10 minutes there. All right, so the next one up is July 20th, 2015. Okay.